Okay, so this is vocational aspects of disability, the causal relationship between poverty and disability. So this is the introduction. Disability and poverty, 50% to 75% lower employment rates for disabled. 1/3 of the 58 million children out of school have disabilities. 177 countries have ratified the Convention on the Rights of the Persons with Disabilities. 80% of disabled people live in developing countries. 15% of the world's population experience some form of disability. The relationship between poverty and disability is well documented. For example, the 1991 survey of income and program participation reported that there were twice as many individuals with a disability below the poverty level as compared to individuals with no disability. Poverty and disability. Poverty is linked to a wide range of health conditions. Poverty is particularly difficult for persons with psychological problems. Poverty is a risk factor for disability and vice versa. So it's kind of a wheel, really, because you get disability leads to poverty, poverty leads to vulnerability, vulnerability to poverty and disease, which can lead to disability. It's a never-going circle. Low-income children, in comparison to middle-income children, are exposed to greater levels of violence, family disruption, and separation from their family. Poor children experience more divorce and live in families where their father faces financial pressures. Poor children experience more divorce and live in families where the father faces financial pressures and greater marital conflict. Low-income families more often have unresponsive, harsher, and more punitive parenting. Children living in poverty are twice as likely to change residence in a year and 5 times as likely to be evicted compared to children not living in poverty. Low income, declining income, and frequent changes in family structures are associated with significantly increased birth risk. Neighborhoods and housing. Individuals who are poor often live in neighborhoods with high crime, poor schools, and limited social networks. Low-income neighborhoods are associated with higher incidence of neighborhood crimes that contribute to increasing chances of injuries and reduced physical exercise. Housing in low-income neighborhoods is more likely to have poor plumbing, lack central heating, poor indoor air quality, more dangerous street traffic, poor municipal services, apartments with too many occupants, high levels of community noise, and occupants who do not feel they can control their living space. Poor families have a 40% higher risk of having a child with a disability. Family poverty, when the children are too young, could have a negative impact on the developing immune system and later health outcomes. Limited access to healthcare. Limited access to healthcare impacts the ability to prevent a disease and increase the effects of existing health problems. Being poor increases the chances you'll be uninsured, will postpone or not receive needed health care, and will use the emergency room as the main source of care. Vocational rehabilitation clients in low-wage jobs have lower access to health benefits than lower-wage workers in the general population. Insured individuals with disabilities are more likely to experience financial difficulties because they are more likely to need medical care, and they tend to lack prescription coverage and have high deductibles and premiums. Limited access to education. When students from families in the bottom fifth of SES score a standard deviation lower than families in the top fifth in math and reading scores. When poor families enter the school system, they are less likely to have qualified teachers. Low-income adolescents are twice as likely as middle-income students to report weapons in school. School systems in low-income areas spend less per pupil than the more affluent areas. Low-income children experience substantially less cognitive stimulation and enrichment when compared to wealthier children, and their parents speak less often and are less likely to read aloud or go to the library. Poverty and disability make career decisions more challenging. College students who have a greater economic resource, social power, and prestige have greater confidence in their ability to make career decisions. Lower socioeconomic students receive less instrumental support for help regarding career decision making and are more likely to experience family disruptions. Developmental work personality. The concept of developmental work personality suggests that individuals who have not learned appropriate behaviors from their parents and in school will have difficulty adjusting to the expectations and demands of a job. Weak social networks. Weak social networks reduce the likelihood that a person will be able to enter the primary labor market. A person with a disability who is poor typically has a weak social network. Many jobs in the primary labor market are accessed through networking. Conclusion: most career theories assume that the individual has the ability to make career decisions without restrictions. Personal control is an assumption of many career counseling approaches. Duffy and Dieck defined work violations as the individual's capacity to make career choices solely on the internal factors such as interest. For an individual with a disability who is poor, external constraints may be the most significant factors in making a career decision. For a counselor assisting in the career decision-making process, acknowledging and discussing these constraints is critical. The end.